I never thought I'd be the guy posting something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake and I'm 32. I've been with my wife, Lisa, for almost 4 years now. We were planning our wedding, everything was supposed to be perfect. I mean, she seemed happy, excited even. We had our disagreements, sure, but nothing that made me think she was hiding something big, or so I thought. Things started feeling off a few weeks ago, little things. She'd be oddly secretive about her phone, always saying she was just talking to her boss about work. But her phone was locked more often, and she'd get defensive when I asked to see it. She'd snap at me if I dared to ask her about her day or what she was doing during certain hours. I figured maybe she was just stressed with wedding planning or work, but looking back, I should have known better. Then came the small hints, her phone number disappearing from her call log, or her wiping her messages. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I felt like I was losing her. Still, I tried to brush it off. I wanted to believe that my gut was wrong, that maybe I was just paranoid. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I could feel it in my gut like a knot tightening every day. The real moment of truth hit when I decided to check her phone. I know, terrible move, but I was desperate. I've been noticing so many new contact names, strange texts, and I just needed to see what was really going on. So I took her phone when she went to the bathroom one evening, and that's when I saw it. A string of messages between her and her boss, David. They weren't just about work. No, these texts were flirtatious, provocative. She was calling him babe, saying she missed him, and even mentioning sex in a way that made my stomach turn. I read through them twice, trying to convince myself it was all some joke, some misunderstanding. But it was. It was real. And the worst part, the timing. The messages were from just hours before our wedding was supposed to happen. I saw papers for the ceremony, her dress, the whole thing. She had planned to get married to me while secretly screwing her boss. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. I felt sick, numb, furious. It was like everything I believed in, everything I thought we had, was just a lie. I don't even remember what I did next, just that I sat there, staring at her phone, realizing my entire life was about to change forever. After I found those messages, I didn't even know what to do. My hands were shaking, my mind racing. I kept staring at her phone, trying to process what I'd just seen. How long had this been going on? Was it all just a fling, or was there more? The thought of her cheating on me with her boss, David, just hours before we were supposed to get married, I couldn't wrap my head around it. It felt like my whole world was crumbling. I decided I couldn't just confront her right then. I needed to be calm, think things through. But how do you even think straight when your life is falling apart? I went outside, lit a cigarette, and tried to breathe through the chaos. That's when I saw her coming down the hall. She looked nervous, like she knew I'd found out. Her face was pale, but her eyes darted around like she was trying to hide something. That's when I knew I had to confront her. When she finally came into the living room, I didn't hold back. I showed her own phone, the messages. I watched her face drain of color, saw her eyes flicker with guilt and panic. She looked at me, trying to lie her way out of it. "Jake, it's not what it looks like," she said, voice trembling. "It's just work stuff, I swear. David and we were just talking about some project, that's all." I felt my blood boil, really, because that doesn't sound like just work when you're calling him babe and talking about missing him and sex. I spat, feeling my jaw tight. "You've been lying to me all this time, Lisa. How long has this been going on? How many times?" She rolled her eyes, her voice turning snarky. "Oh, please, you're overreacting. It's just a stupid flirtation. Nothing serious. You're making a big deal out of nothing. I never thought you'd be such a jealous psycho about some texts." That was the moment I realized she didn't even care about how I felt. She was more annoyed that I caught her. And that's when I saw the true face of the woman I'd married. The woman who had lied every step of the way, who had betrayed me in the worst way possible. My chest was heavy, my fists clenched, but I knew I couldn't just lose my mind. I told her to leave the house, told her I needed time to think. She threw a fit, calling me crazy and accusing me of snooping. But I didn't care. All I cared about was the crushing weight of this betrayal sinking in. That night I didn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, her words, her lies, her sneaky texts. I felt like an idiot for trusting her, for thinking she was the one. All those moments we shared, the plans we made, it was all tainted now. And I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't just go back to the way things were. Not after discovering my wife, the woman I loved, had been screwing her boss, the guy who was supposed to be just a coworker, just hours before our wedding. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a massacre. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that smug look she had when she thought she was getting away with it. My mind kept circling back to that night, replaying the moment I found her messages, feeling the anger boil inside me. I kept asking myself, how could she lie so easily? How could someone I trusted turn out to be so manipulative and selfish? But I also knew I couldn't just sit around and drown in misery. I had to decide what I was going to do. Honestly, part of me wanted to confront her again, demand answers, tell her how much she hurt me. But I knew she'd just lie again, spin some bullshit excuse. And I was tired of her lies. I wanted to punish her, to make her feel what I was feeling right now, even if just a little. Then I remembered something about David, her boss. I'd done some digging and I found out he was married too. I wasn't surprised. These kinds of guys usually aren't just cheating on their wives, they're also full of themselves, completely unfaithful. That just made me angrier. I mean, he's the one who should be embarrassed, not me. But instead, he's threatening me now, saying that if I try to expose him, he'll ruin me. That's when I realized I had to fight fire with fire. I started planning. I didn't want to do anything reckless, but I knew I had to strike back. I decided I'd gather evidence of everything, her texts, her calls, anything I could use. I installed a hidden app on her phone so I could keep tabs without her knowing. I also reached out to a couple of friends who owed me favors, just in case I needed some backup. I wanted to make sure I was prepared for whatever she threw at me next. Meanwhile, Lisa kept calling and texting, trying to apologize and beg for a second chance. She threw every excuse in the book, that she was stressed, that she loved me but was confused, that she didn't mean for it to happen. Classic bullshit. I just blocked her number and ignored her. I couldn't even look at her without feeling a mixture of disgust and heartbreak. How did I get here? How did everything fall apart so fast? The worst part was the feeling of helplessness. I felt betrayed by the woman I was meant to spend the rest of my life with. I kept thinking about what everyone would say, our family, friends, if they found out. Would they even believe me? Or would they just see me as some jealous fool? The shame was almost as unbearable as the heartbreak. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without paying a price. That's when I started to plan my next move, quietly, carefully. Because if she thought she could lie her way out, she was dead wrong. I spent the next couple of days in a fog, trying to keep my head clear while I pieced everything together. I knew I had to confront her again, but I wanted to do it on my terms. I needed her to admit what she'd done, and I needed proof that I could hold over her head. I started compiling everything I had, the texts, the call logs, the time stamps. I even managed to get her online activity, just in case I needed to show her how much I knew. Meanwhile, she kept trying to reach me, crying, begging, promising she'd change. It was the same tired routine, her tears, her excuses, her frantic texts. She called me crazy, said I was overreacting, that she loved me, and that I was ruining everything. I could see right through it. She was desperate to keep her secret, and honestly, I was starting to see her for what she really was: manipulative, selfish, and a liar. The woman I thought I knew was gone. One night I decided I couldn't wait anymore. I wanted to get this over with. I sat her down. Well, more like I forced her into the living room. She looked scared, but she still had that cocky attitude, like she thought she could talk her way out of it. I pulled out my phone, showed her everything I had gathered. I told her I wasn't interested in her sob stories, that I knew about her affair, about her lying to my face while planning her wedding just hours away. Her reaction was shocking. She scoffed, rolled her eyes, then launched into another round of bullshit. "It's not what you think, Jake," she started, her voice dripping with contempt. "David's just a friend. We've been working together forever. It's not like I was cheating on you. You're overreacting. You're just jealous because he's successful and I got bored with you. Honestly, I don't know what you're so upset about. It's not like we had an actual relationship." I almost laughed. That's when I realized her entire story was a pack of lies. She'd been lying about everything: her feelings, her intentions, her innocent friendship with David. But I wasn't about to let her keep spinning her bullshit anymore. I told her to get out, told her she was done. And for the first time, I saw her lose that cocky attitude. Her face twisted in anger and frustration. She spat at me, calling me insecure, saying I was ruining her life, that I'd regret this. But I didn't care. I was done. That night I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. For so long, I'd held on to the hope that we could fix this, that she'd see reason, but now I knew the truth. The woman I married was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. I'd lost my trust, my future, maybe even my love. But I also knew one thing: I wasn't going to let her control the narrative anymore. She could lie, she could manipulate, but I had all the evidence. And I was ready to do whatever it took to protect myself from her lies and her threats. The days after she left were the hardest. I felt like I was walking around in a daze, trying to piece myself back together. Part of me kept hoping she'd come back, that maybe she'd realize how much she screwed up and beg for forgiveness. But deep down, I knew that was just wishful thinking. The woman who lied to me and cheated on me just hours before our wedding wasn't coming back. She burned that bridge, and all I had left was this mess she created. I started reaching out to some friends, guys I trusted, who'd always been there for me. I needed advice, support, anything. Most of them were furious for me, telling me I deserved better, reminding me that I was better off without her. But some warned me about the fallout. They said, "Are you sure this is the end? She might try to come back, play the victim, and manipulate you again." That kind of talk made me realize I needed to be careful. I had to protect myself, both legally and emotionally. Meanwhile, David kept calling and texting her, trying to threaten me. He'd send me messages that were full of arrogance, warning me to stay silent or else. That's when I decided enough was enough. I gathered all the evidence I had: screenshots of her texts, logs of her calls, the emails she'd sent him. I even found some photos she'd taken with David. Apparently, they'd been sneaking around for a while. I didn't bother telling her I had everything. I knew I had leverage now, and I was ready to use it if I needed to. I also started looking into my options. I knew I could go to a lawyer, get a restraining order if necessary. I hadn't told anyone about the full scope of what I'd discovered. I wanted to be prepared, to have everything in place before I made a move. I wasn't planning to confront her again, not unless I had concrete proof to back me up. I was tired of her lies, her manipulations. I just wanted to move on. The hardest part was facing everyone else, my family, our friends. I was so ashamed, so embarrassed. How do you tell your parents their perfect son got played like a fool? How do I explain that the woman I was supposed to marry had been screwing her boss while I was buying a dress for our wedding? It's humiliating. But I also knew I couldn't hide forever. I had to be honest for my own sake. So now I stand at a crossroad. I'm still processing everything, trying to figure out what's next. Do I fight to save what's left of our relationship? Do I walk away completely? I honestly don't have the answers yet. All I know is that I'm done trusting her, done trusting anyone who would betray me like that. And I've learned the hard way that sometimes the truth hurts, but it's better than living a lie. Looking back now, I realize how much this has changed me. I used to think trust was the foundation of everything: marriage, friendship, even basic human decency. Turns out I was naive. Betrayal cuts deep, and sometimes it leaves scars that never fully heal. But I also learned something else. I'm stronger than I thought. I survived this chaos, and I'm still standing. Deciding to end things with Lisa was the hardest, but also the best choice I could make. I cut all ties, blocked her from my life, and started focusing on rebuilding myself. It wasn't easy. There were nights I drank too much, questions I kept asking myself about what I did wrong, how I missed the signs. But eventually I realized it wasn't my fault. She was the one who lied, who cheated, who played me for a fool. Now I'm working on moving forward. I've started therapy, trying to get past the anger and bitterness. I've also started dating again, but cautiously. Trust doesn't come easy anymore, but I know I'll get there. I've had to accept that some wounds take time to heal, and that sometimes you just have to let go of the past to make room for a better future. One thing I want to say to anyone reading this: if you're in a similar situation, don't ignore the signs. Don't second guess your gut, and don't be afraid to walk away if you need to. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's hard to rebuild. But most importantly, don't stay in a toxic situation just because you're afraid of being alone or because you think you're supposed to make it work. Sometimes, walking away is the bravest thing you can do. I don't regret any of it, even the pain. Because without this experience, I wouldn't have learned how to stand up for myself, how to see through the lies, or how to value myself enough to walk away from someone who didn't deserve me. Life, been brutal, but I'm moving on. And in the end, I guess that's what matters, finding the strength to start over, no matter how hard it gets.